Russia hits Ukraine with large-scale missiles. December 23, 2025. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex.
And I'm Arya.
Welcome to the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report, where we give you the sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of what's happening in global defense.
And today, we are really cutting through the noise.
We are, because while high-level peace talks are happening in Berlin and Miami, something very different, something much more brutal, is unfolding on the ground.
A massive, coordinated Russian attack.
And it's aimed squarely at breaking Ukraine's infrastructure, its economy, right as diplomats are sitting down at the table.
We're seeing some truly disturbing developments.
Absolutely. Think about this. We've got ballistic missile strikes on a critical port, Pivdeni, using cluster munitions. We're talking 7, maybe 8 civilian deaths in one go.
And that's not all. There's this new ultra-cheap decoy drone, the Gerbera. It's being used to just exhaust Ukraine's most expensive Western air defenses.
And behind all of it, maybe the most chilling goal of all a Russian strategy, to literally, physically, split the Ukrainian power grid in half.
Which risks a total blackout across the entire eastern part of the country.
So our mission today is to unpack all of this, to understand this dual front.
Exactly. The diplomatic battlefield versus the kinetic reality of what's happening right now. You need to understand both to see the full picture.
Okay, let's start with Odesa. The sheer scale of these ballistic missile attacks. It's just relentless.
It is, and it's not random. The focus is absolutely on the Odesa region.
Which is the economic heartbeat of Ukraine's Black Sea corridor. It's their lifeline to the world.
That's right. The sources confirmed strikes on December 19th, the 20th, and again on the 22nd. And they're hitting the port infrastructure hard.
Specifically Pivdeni port.
Pivdeni port, one of the 3 main arteries for their grain and other exports. Taking it out is a direct economic gut punch.
And the human cost.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
It's tragic. One attack, 7 people killed, 15 injured. Another report says 8 dead, 27 injured. These are civilians, port workers.
And the sources say the missiles were, and this is a quote, likely armed with cluster warheads.
Which tells you everything about the intent.
It's not a precision strike against a military target.
No, not at all. A cluster warhead is for maximum area disruption. You use it when you want to hit everything in a wide zone. Reports say they hit truck parking lots, civilian infrastructure.
And they caused a fire, right, with containers of flour and vegetable oil.
About 30 containers, yeah. It's a direct assault on the export corridor. They're trying to starve Ukraine of cash.
And it's not just the ports. They're hitting the logistics behind the ports, too.
Precisely. They took out a key bridge on the P-70 highway and a railway bridge. So even if you can get goods out of the secondary Danube ports like Rain, it's now much, much harder.
They're trying to create a total economic blockade. Isolate them completely.
That's the goal. Now, if we shift from the targets to the weapons, this is where it gets really concerning.
You're talking about the Iskander-M missiles.
Yes. The big problem here is that Ukraine's interception rate has just plummeted.
How low are we talking?
Down to maybe 15–17% in late 2025. It's a huge drop.
That is a massive alarm bell for every defense planner in NATO. The Patriot system is supposed to be the answer to this threat. So what's changed?
Well, the sources point to a couple of things. The big one seems to be software upgrades. The Iskander can now maneuver much more effectively in its terminal phase.
So right before it hits the target.
Exactly, the last few seconds. It's pulling complex, evasive moves, which makes it incredibly difficult for an interceptor to calculate a solution.
Making it faster and more unpredictable just when the Patriot needs to lock on.
You've got it. And analysts are debating how they're doing it. Hypothesis 1 is a steeper trajectory.
Higher altitude.
Much higher, maybe up to 100 kilometers near space. The typical apogee is 50.
So it comes down faster, converting all that potential energy into pure speed.
Which changes all the physics for the interceptor. But then there's a second theory.
Which is?
Simply better decoys. The missile releases these 9B999 decoys, and new software makes them incredibly convincing to the Patriot's radar.
So the system can't tell the difference between the real warhead and the fake one. It chases a ghost.
It might be. Whichever it is, the result is the same. One of the West's best air defense systems is becoming far less effective.
And that problem gets so much worse when you add saturation into the mix. And that's where this new drone comes in, the Gerbera.
The cheap, disposable drone. This is where the economic warfare really kicks in.
So tell us about this thing. It's a simplified Shahed 136, basically.
It is. It's made of, plywood and polystyrene foam, super cheap material.
And the cost is just Unbelievable.
But Ukrainian officials estimate a unit costs about $10,000.
$10,000.
And the engine is a Chinese-made DLE-60 that costs, what, $500?
Compare that to a single Patriot interceptor missile.
Which costs around $4 million.
So you're forcing Ukraine to shoot a $4 million missile at a $10,000 piece of plywood.
And you send hundreds of them. It's an unsustainable resource drain. The whole point is to act as a decoy. They call it Operation False Target.
And they're churning them out.
Sources say by late 2024, decoys like the Gerbera made up something like 75% of the new drones coming out of the Alabuga factory. It's all about volume.
But I read that some of them are more than just simple decoys. There's a hidden layer of tech.
There is. Some of them are fitted with a mesh network modem. It costs about $8,000.
And what does that do?
It turns the drone into a signal relay, so the whole swarm can communicate with each other and the control station, making them much more resilient to electronic warfare.
So you use the cheap drones to clear a path and provide a network for the more expensive, deadlier systems coming in behind them.
That's the strategy. It's disturbingly effective.
Okay, so you've got the super fast Iskanders and you've got these cheap Gerbera swarms. What's the ultimate strategic target they're trying to hit?
The Ukrainian power grid. The entire thing.
This isn't just about causing blackouts, is it?
No, this is much bigger. The goal is what we call bifurcation. They want to physically split the grid in two.
How would that work?
Well, Ukraine generates most of its electricity in the west, but the heavy industry and big cities that consume the power are in the east.
And there are massive transmission lines connecting them.
And those are the targets.
Yeah.
If Russia can destroy those high-voltage lines, they can create two energy islands. The east would be completely cut off from the generating west.
It would just
A
collapse.
total collapse. We're hearing reports that eastern Ukraine is already at the brink. Even Kyiv is vulnerable.
This is humanitarian catastrophe waiting to happen, especially in the dead of winter.
Absolutely. And we're seeing the immediate effects. Overnight, into December 22nd, they hit energy infrastructure in 5 different regions.
And just in Odesa alone.
Over 120,000 people were left without power from just one of those strikes.
And this has a knock-on effect for nuclear safety, doesn't it?
Yep.
The IAEA has been warning about this.
Constantly. The grid is in its worst state since September 2024. The instability is forcing the nuclear plants, Kalinsky, Rivne, South Ukraine, to reduce power.
Just to keep the grid from collapsing entirely.
And that instability affects everything, including the staff who run the plants. Their towns lose power, heat, water. It's a huge safety risk.
It's just a relentless pressure campaign. But Ukraine isn't just sitting back and taking this. They are innovating.
They absolutely are. They are pushing back in some incredibly clever, asymmetric ways.
Let's talk about the naval front, because what happened on December 14th was, well, historic.
It really was. The first known unmanned underwater vehicle, a UUV strike in history.
Against a Russian Kilo-class submarine.
A Kilo-class submarine docked at the Novorossiysk naval base, which was supposed to be a safe rear area.
And this wasn't just any submarine.
No, this sub was a launch platform for Kalibr cruise missiles, the same kind of missiles used to hit Odessa.
Huh.
Taking it out of action is a huge strategic win.
It just redraws the map of what Russia thought was safe.
And it's part of a much broader deep strike campaign.
Right. They've been hitting Russian logistics and energy hard.
Between late November and mid-December, they hit 7 Russian vessels, 5 tankers, 2 cargo ships. They even hit a Lukoil oil rig in the Caspian Sea.
So they're hitting the source of the money and fuel for Russia's war machine.
Exactly. They hit the Astrakhan gas plant, a thermal power plant in Belgorod that provides 10% of the city's heat. It's about creating reciprocal costs.
So let's bring it back to the drone problem. How is Ukraine fighting back against the cheap Gerbera saturation strategy?
With their own innovation. And this is the beauty of it.
They're developing their own cheap interceptors.
Yes. Systems like the Sting or the Bullet, domestically produced, low-cost drone killers.
How low cost are we talking?
Sources say some of these systems cost as little as $1,000 per interceptor.
So now you're killing a $10,000 drone with a $1,000 solution.
And that completely flips the economic equation back in Ukraine's favor. It's the only sustainable way to fight this air war.
So when we connect all these dots, the Iskanders, the Gerberas, the grid attacks, it's all happening while peace talks are supposedly ongoing.
It's not separate from the diplomacy, it's part of it. Russia is using this kinetic campaign to create chaos and economic collapse to force Ukraine to accept maximalist demands.
They're trying to destroy the negotiating table before they even get there.
That's a good way to put it.
So what's the bottom line here? What does this mean for Ukraine and its partners right now?
Well, it highlights the urgent need for a truly comprehensive air defense umbrella.
Something that can handle two totally different kinds of threats.
Exactly. You need quantity to deal with the cheap drone swarms, but you also need that cutting-edge quality to deal with the maneuvering ballistic missiles.
It's a two-pronged problem that needs a two-pronged solution.
It is. And look, the technological race is just accelerating. You have this dramatic drop in missile interception rates, but at the same time, you have this incredibly successful historic UUV attack by Ukraine.
It shows that offense and defense are leapfrogging each other constantly.
They are. And the survival of Ukraine's infrastructure, maybe the country itself, could come down to who adapts fastest over these next few critical months.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Arya, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
We hope this deep dive gave you a clearer picture of the fight Ukraine is facing, both on the battlefield and at the negotiating table. The sheer cost of modern air defense is definitely something to think about.
So subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.